Hello everyone and welcome back to a special video. You see next to me, of course, our 1966 Chevy Corvette Stingray. I've made a video on this already. In fact, it was my first car review. I mean, a long time ago, but we got the car back after some recent work done with it, and I decided, why not? Let's make another video on it. So if you haven't seen my original video, this is our 1966 Chevrolet Corvette, and this car has a lot of history with my family. So it started out, it was in a car accident, which is where we kind of get connected to it, but it was in a bad front-end accident, and the police officer who investigated the crash ended up buying the car and started the process of restoring it. But before he was finished, he had to end up selling it. He couldn't keep it, he had to get rid of it. That's where my grandfather and my father ended up buying it in sort of its partway restoration state. You can see it here in some of these older pictures we have. It's like 5 different colors with a red hood and yellow headlights and you know, all kinds of different colors. And one of the things he told me about it was that all of the wires were red and you had no idea what was connected to anything, and it was all kinds of, it was an electrical mess. So they finished sort of the restoration process. But then after that, we have a problem with the clutch. The clutch connection broke. You couldn't get it into gear anymore, and it kind of just sat for a long time and sort of deteriorated back a little bit. And recently, we got the clutch fixed. We got it back in driving order, and we've been taking up to Johnson's Farm Car Show, of course, which is the best car show of all time. And it's been running great. But then recently, we decided, let's give it a little bit more care, right? So the paint wasn't in that great a shape anymore. We had a lot of dents down the side, in particular, a bit of rust on the bumpers, just some general deterioration, along with our roof was in pretty bad shape. You couldn't see out the back window. So recently we've taken it out, we've gotten it totally repainted. So they stripped all of the old paint off, you repainted the whole thing, and then we took it to Pete's Detailing actually, and he redid and finished everything really nice. This is like a top quality paint job we have on it. We also re-chromed the bumpers, so those are looking phenomenal, as well as a brand new roof, which we'll take a look at when we put that up. But the car is looking the best I have ever seen it, and we're going to go into a detailed review of it right now. Alright, so let's start under the hood of this thing. As I said before, this was in a bad front-end accident, so everything you see here forward of the windshield basically is not original to the car. Everything else behind that is. But that includes the engine. As you can see by our sticker, this is a 350 cubic inch engine, and some of you who know your C2 Corvettes are like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Because these cars in 66, you could get the 327 small block or the 427 big block. There wasn't a 350 offered. But the police officer who got this car after the accident, when he was restoring it, he got a crate 350 and put it in here. It runs great. This is one of the best sounding engines in my opinion. You'll have to take a listen to it, but we have the honest sticker on there. This isn't actually a 327, it is a 350, but we have it dressed up looking really good. You know, Pete also detailed the engine interior, so we got everything really cleaned out. Our valve covers are looking so good. So some of the little things, you know, we want to keep this car looking like it's original from 66, even though we, you know, improve things here and there, but we don't want to make it too obvious. One of the examples of that is our brake cylinder here. This is actually a dual brake cylinder now. We have 2, but it still is encased in the single brake cylinder. So it looks like it would be original with your single brake cylinder, but we actually have 2 now just for safety and reliability reasons. But that's sort of an example of how we maintain this car, right? And how we keep the engine looking. We're not going to put like an LS engine in this. We want to keep it looking like it's from 1966, even though we have a few minor tweaks to it. All right, close this back up. I always love the Corvette hoods that open the wrong way. It's great. So coming up front to our C2 Corvette, you can see first off just the awesome lines on this car. You know, the C2 Corvette is kind of heralded as one of the best looking Corvettes of all time. I definitely agree with that. I love how this car looks, especially in this color. As a note, this is silver blue. It's actually a 1965 color that we chose to repaint it in. The original color this car was Sunfire Yellow, which is an interesting color. I much prefer this, and you know, when we got it repainted, we all loved the color, so we stuck with the 65 color, even though it's not technically correct. I love how it looks. But up here you can also see our re-chrome bumpers. So these are looking, I mean, they look like mirrors. It's looking really nice up here. And you can see, of course, our pop-up headlights. But these aren't traditional pop-up headlights you get on the C2. These are more like roll-around headlights. Take a look at them. So down the side of our Corvette, you can see we also have these rocker panels. Now, for a while on this side, they were pretty dented up, and they're like impossible to find. But we got some brand new ones on there, really help straighten out, you know, the sides of the car. We also have these really unique sort of gills on the side of the Corvette. Now, these can actually flow air into the footwell as sort of like additional, I don't know, airflow, but you can actually close them or open them with some controls in the footwell, and it's just sort of a unique thing. You know, you actually have air flowing from the outside of the car into the footwell. Around back, you can see, of course, our, again, re-chrome bumpers looking fantastic, but just, you know, some more general stuff. This is our gas tank right here, smack in the middle, which makes not dripping gas on your car very difficult. But we also have our electronically extendable antenna, which is always something really cool to see. It's a tall one. So this is how you can tell between a 67 and the other years. We actually have the single brake lights on each side, and then you have the reverse lights next to it. On the 67, you have two brake lights and then the reverse lights in the middle. I prefer this look. I don't like the reverse lights in the middle. Kind of, you know, dirties up the look, but again, these bumpers are looking great. Before we discuss some of the interior things you get in the car, let's look at the roof mechanism. This is, of course, a convertible, and there is no power top. This is 1966. So here's the process you have to go through to put the top up. First, you got to unclip this back, all right, and this is where the roof is stored, right? You got to flip this up, which is pretty heavy, and line up it with the holes here in the windshield. So it slots right in there. Flip up the back here. You can fold this back down and then fold this over here. So now the roof's kind of in its general place. Then to lock it into place, you have to go inside, realign these a little bit, and hook it in like that, right, on both sides, and that kind of locks the front down. Then you come back outside and you have to lock in the back and scissor load of those chrome bits you just saw. So takes a bit of manpower sometimes. And there you go. Your roof is in place, just like that. Inside the Corvette, now you can see with our roof up. First off, this is a brand new roof we just had installed, which is great. It was actually ripping like right in the corner here, and the rear window was so clouded you couldn't even see out of it. But we got the brand new roof, and it's looking really nice. Aside from that, you can see some of the 60s stuff you get in here. First off, this gigantic steering wheel. It really gives a unique experience having this wheel that's this giant, and because you sit so low, your legs just kind of have to go around it. But we have no power steering, and you got that big engine right over the front wheel, so you need a pretty good sized steering wheel there. Got our turn signals, of course, very simple, and our giant gauges right here. We do have a slight issue. Our speedometer reads like 10 miles an hour over, but you know, you can get the approximate speed. But everything else works good in here. You can see our fuel gauge, our water temperature, our oil, our battery voltage, stuff like that. Here's our lights control. You can turn it like that. That's our dial for there. You got your wiper controls. Our wiper controls consist of slow and fast. That's all you get, but they work reasonably well. Not that you should be driving this car in the rain. I certainly wouldn't do it. And you got your, your key to start stuff. This is your parking brake, which is a really unique thing. You pull it out, that turns it on, and then you can twist it and put it back in. It's a really neat functioning thing. And these little things here are what I talked about before. That controls the airflow from the gills on the side, so you can push those in to close it or pull them out to open them up. And as you can see, this is a manual transmission we have in here. This is a 4-speed, and this is our Hurst shifter. This is actually what the cars came with the factory. You had sort of a T-shifter thing. But this is our Hurst, and the gears are very close in this, I will tell you. This is one of the first cars I drove in stick shift. And it's quite a car to learn on, but the gears are hard to find sometimes. But once you have it, it is awesome. It's like snick into gear. It's only a 4-speed, but yeah, it's a great transmission, and it is so satisfying to drive once you got the hang of it. We got, you know, a pretty good sized glove compartment. There's no airbags, of course, so you got plenty of storage in here. We have our basic controls down in the middle. This is our clock, which is working, by the way, and some of our basic stuff. You know, these dials, you can turn them for your fan, your air. You can actually pull them out for some extra functionality. Volume for the radio, tuning for the radio. And this is our radio here. Vertically mounted, and some cool functions. You know, you can flip it for AM and FM, your saved radio stations there. That actually doesn't work right now, which, you know, is no big deal because you have an engine to listen to. On the door, you get a lot of stuff here. First off, you have your locks back here, right? That's so you can lock the doors. No power locks, obviously. This is your door handle get out. You can pull it and open it up, and that's how you get out. And these are your 2 roll-up features for the window. So this is for your main window, right? That's, you know, roll it up, roll it down, pretty basic. This one, however, controls this sort of angle window. If you want some more air facing towards you, you can actually twist this out like so, and that directs air right at you. It works really well, especially on real hot days, you know, when you're just cooking. This is a great feature. I really like it, and you don't really see it all that often. So also in the middle, we have, of course, our lap belts. There are no shoulder belts in this car. A very safe vehicle. But you can see they just slide up, and then you have another piece over here, and it's like you're in an airplane. You're all set to go. I do think it's really cool, though, that these go right in the middle, and they even have a special lock for them to stay in place so they're not just, you know, flopping around. Putting the roof down is pretty much identical to putting it up, except in reverse fashion. So first you got to unclip the back. Some buttons you can use to pop that out. There we go. All right, then up front you have some clips you just unclip. All right, now you're all set. Just flip up the back, open up your rear hatch again. By the way, with the roof up, check out all the storage space you got in here. And then you can just fold the roof right back down into the back and close it up. As far as manual roofs go, that's about as simple as it gets. So with all of that said, let's listen to that V8. Off we go in the Corvette. So this car is so different to everything else I drive. It takes a little bit of readjusting to when you haven't driven it in a while. As I said, with the shifter, the gears are tight, like they are really close together. And so you gotta be sure you're in first gear, not third gear, which I've done quite often. Here we go out on the road. There we go. Another thing with this car is it's hard not to go fast in it. The throttle pedal has a very sort of heavy feel to it, so you kind of gotta give it a lot to push it in, and so the car wants to go, basically. It's not an easy car to drive slowly and smoothly. It's just a race car that wants to like, and this is like a real proper convertible. You know, you have nothing behind you. It's just a 2-seater. All you have in front of you is a windshield, and then, you know, everything else is wide open. And you feel it. The torque of this engine is crazy. I'm in 4th gear, and it pulls with the slightest touch of the throttle. Once you get over sort of the initial fear of driving this car, oh man, is it just a joy to drive. This isn't really that loud of a car. It's sort of a bit more subtle, but man, does it sound good. And you sit low in this car. You know, the car itself is very low, but your seating position relative to everything else is low. Like, The window line's pretty high, and you have this huge hood that goes way out in front of you. It is really cool though. I mean, you can see both fender flares of the rear wheels, and it's such a cool look right in front of you. Now, we're coming up to the twisty roads. I will say this is a very, very good handling car. I'm not going to push it because it's quite terrifying when you're not used to the car. You have to build up a lot of confidence in this car. You know, it's not a car that sort of does stuff for you. You do everything. And you know, this is not a car you'll want to mess around with. But I will say, my dad, who drives this a lot, has gone around these corners, and this thing handles good. It handles flat, and it's not like it's going to spin out and kill you all the time, but it will do that if you don't drive it right. Ride quality is relatively good. You know, these seats are actually pretty comfortable, although they are black vinyl, so if you leave them out in the sun, they will burn you. You stick to them when you're sweaty. But the ride doesn't, you know, it's not like I'm on pogo sticks or anything. It's good, and you got some thick sidewalls, so it's not crazy. So the clutch in this car, like I said with the accelerator pedal, everything's mechanical, obviously, and the clutch is pretty heavy. This is a hefty clutch, so it's got some good weight to it when you're shifting. It's not like, oh, I'm, you know, gonna break my leg trying to shift, but it's quite a lot heavier than your normal car, which suits it. Brakes are good, though you have such a big engine, you can slow it down mostly from just downshifting. This was a race car. You know, people took this racing, and you feel it. Like, driving this, it feels like a race car you should take out on the mall, not something on the street. It's like an animal with this engine, and like I said, the performance is there. The handling is there. You just gotta be a brave person to reach it. But it's such a joy to drive, you know. There is initial fear when you haven't driven it in a while, but out on the road, you know, just cruising like in fourth gear, it's such a pleasure to drive. Oh, man. And it's so different from every other car you see out here, obviously. Like, with the heavy clutch, the shifter action, the giant steering wheel you get, the engine, oh, man. And it's just, it all fits together so well in this package. I can't imagine one of these with the big block. It's absolutely terrifying. Oh, listen to that V8, man. So, you know, if you watched my Fiero video, which you should definitely go check out, I talk about what an analog car that is. That car is 21 years newer than this. You know, this is an analog car. You are driving this car every moment. With shifting, with the steering, with the clutch, you are doing something all the time. This is an engaging car. This is a driver's car. You can't sit back and relax in this thing. But at the same time, it is so enjoyable to drive. It's impossible to drive this car without laughing and smiling. Like, oh man, it's such a joy to drive. And it's so engaging, like I said. This is definitely our fastest accelerating car, and this is by far the fastest car I've ever driven. It's fast. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, it's the 60s, you know. But this is a fast car by any standards. You can speed shift with this shifter, man. It is tight gearing. Oh man, what an awesome car. So that wraps up our review on our 1966 Chevy Corvette. This is a very special car. It's a special car regardless due to its driving experience, the performance you get, and just the era it comes from. But it's special to us as well for all the history we've had with it. So we may have some further Corvette videos coming up soon. Some more details about sort of the finish and special paint job and detailings we've had on this car. But for now, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you later. Which we didn't find out about until quite a while after we bought it, but I do really love how this color looks. Only one? You can see here, this is of course a convertible, and yeah. Alright, then you, hello, hold on. We want that to be lined up.